Okay, first of all, you'll be in standing and you want your folded up towel or your yoga block or even a book that you can use for your calf stretch. The ball of your foot comes onto the corner of that block. You're going to step the other foot forwards to find your calf stretch. And then just mind that you're not twisting to one side. Both of your hip bones are looking forwards towards the wall or the top of your mat perhaps. And if you can't feel a calf stretch, you might find you need to go further forwards, or if you've got a strong stretch, perfect. Release back and switch sides, so you come to the other corner, place the ball of the foot onto the block, and step forwards with the other foot. Finding the stretch through that back heel. Minding that you're not twisting again, both hip bones space towards that wall in front of you. Nice and relaxed through the shoulders. And then again, carefully step yourself back. You're always welcome to a couple more if your calves do feel super tight. You can push the block out of the way, step one foot forward and mind your balance as you bring yourself down to the floor. You'll end up on one knee. I'm on my right. I'm going to step my left foot that little bit further forwards. And there's already a bit of a stretch through the front of my right hip, my right quad, and I'm allowing the tailbone to look down towards the ground. Once again, both hip bones are facing forwards towards the front of my mat. And then dependent on how that feels in your leg, in your knee, you can go forwards to increase that stretch through the front of the hip. And then push the front foot into the floor to come back. Again, go forwards. And come back. And on this last one, come forwards, hold the stretch, keep allowing that tailbone to look down to the ground as you reach the right hand, or same hand as same knee, up towards the ceiling, and you might reach across. So I'm reaching away from the camera. Again, mind that you're not twisting through the pelvis. Both hip bones look towards the top of the mat, and then let that arm come back down, push yourself back, and step that knee underneath you. To switch sides. So same on the other leg. You can't see my hip so much now, but I've got that stretch through the front of my left hip. Both hip bones are looking towards the top of that mat. And then slide forwards to increase your stretch, minding that you're not twisting. Of course, it might be stronger one side than the other. Push your way back and slide forwards again. And so long as the stretch is in the quad or in the front of that hip, perfect. On that last one, you come forwards. You let the arm come up towards the ceiling. So same arm as the knee that's on the floor. And reach. You might tip across just a little bit and feel that stretch increasing. Breathe into that stretch and then release that arm all the way back down. Push back and slide that foot underneath you to then sit yourself all the way down onto the floor. So using both of your arms behind you, your fingers facing forwards if you can, bend the elbows to lay yourself down. And then once you're in your basic rest, your knees are bent, feet flat on the floor, hip width apart. Place your hands down by your sides and allow the pelvis to roll back, flattening that lower back into the mat. And then let the pelvis tip forwards, arching. Flattening as you exhale and arching. You can stay there for as long as you like, especially if you're feeling quite stiff. Maybe notice not only how it is in your lower back, but that mid back, maybe even the upper back and the shoulders. And then let the pelvis be heavy on the floor. Your pelvis is in neutral. You're going to pick up the right foot and cross it over the left knee. And then float the left knee in towards you, reaching for that left thigh. So I'm grabbing hold just behind my left knee. The stretch is in your glutes, around the back of that right hip, not pinching in the front. And then just mind that you're not twisting, and both sit bones, again, are looking toward the top of your mat. That might be quite a strong stretch for you, and you can stay there. Or take that shape ever so slightly to the left, and you might feel the stretch increase. But don't let that be in your back. It's got to be through that glute. Come back out of that little rotation and place that foot onto the floor to switch sides. The ankle joint goes across the knee. You float that knee in towards you. And the stretch should be through that left glute this time. Breathing as you allow that to release. Again, no pinching in the front. And then let that shape tip to the right to increase your stretch. Come back to the center and then place that foot back down onto the floor. Both feet on the floor, again, back into hip width apart. Go back to those pelvic tilts and see how that feels now. Hopefully you feel that you've got a little bit more room to move, a little bit more room to breathe. And then again, the next time the pelvis is heavy on the floor, bend the right knee, in towards you, and start to lengthen the leg up towards the ceiling. So I've interlaced my hands behind my right thigh as I reach the toes towards the ceiling, and then let that soften. Reach the toes towards the ceiling and soften. You might even feel a little bit of drawing down on your shoulders, maybe a little bit of a stretch through the neck. And then this time start to reach through that right leg and flex through the ankle joint. So your heel is reaching for the ceiling. And you might find that starts to give you a hamstring stretch. If the stretch is all in your calf rather than the hamstring, take your hands that little bit higher up towards your calf and see if you can grab hold there. Try not to let the tailbone lift away from the floor. You're keeping the tailbone heavy. And now bend that knee towards you. Take a good hold of that calf and the shin, and then start to reach again towards the ceiling to get the stretch. The foot's in dorsiflexion, so the heel reaches for the ceiling. One more time. And then bend that knee in towards you and place the foot down. Go back to your pelvic tilts just briefly, flattening through that lower back and arching, maybe noticing a difference between the two legs. And then once again, your pelvis is heavy. You float the left knee in towards you, hands interlaced behind the thigh bone, and start to lengthen the leg to the ceiling. You're pointing to start with. There's maybe a stretch through the front of your ankle joint as you do. And then the next time that you lengthen that leg towards the ceiling, flex through the ankle joint. So the heel is reaching for the ceiling. Again, notice where your stretch is. Is it the calf or is it into your hamstring? If it's not in the hamstring, you can always bend that knee and grab hold of the calf as you now reach that heel towards the ceiling. And soften through the knee. Reach the heel and soften. And a few more. Keep flexing through the ankle joint so you feel the heel reach for the ceiling. And then again, bend that knee right in towards you. Place the foot onto the floor. Go back into your pelvic tilts. Maybe notice how that feels now. So working our way up through the body. We're then coming up towards the shoulders. You're going to float the arms towards the ceiling, palms facing in. And as you breathe in, reach for the ceiling. As you exhale, melt the shoulder blades back down. Your inhale reaches. And your exhale melts. Just one more. Sliding the shoulder blades on the back of your body, not allowing your head to move too much, but it's also not rigid. When the shoulder blades next melt onto the floor, interlace your fingers and make one big fist with your hands. You're going to take that shape over to the right hand side, but do not bend the right elbow. Your head will turn with you and then come back to the center. As you breathe in, you roll to the right, and your exhale brings you back to the center. And just one or two more times. So thinking of the whole of the upper body as one unit. It all moves together here. So the arms are quite rigid, and the ribs are rotating with the arms. And then when you're ready, do 4 over to the other side. Keep an eye on that left elbow now and mind that it's not bending. When you have done 4, bring the hands back to the center. Open the palms apart and then reach the hands behind your head. So you're interlacing the hands behind your head. Allow the elbows to open wide, so long as that's not pinching in your shoulders. And then from there, as you exhale, let the elbows roll towards the ceiling. Again, your inhale opens the arms wide, the elbows wide. And as you exhale, bring the elbows to the ceiling. You can start to picture that the elbows are moving away from each other, and then they're coming towards each other as if they were going to touch. You might find that you squeeze your skull as you do so, and that's sometimes just a nice massage on the head. You can squeeze the fingers into your neck behind you, maybe a little bit of a massage around the back of the neck if you're feeling achy through the neck and shoulders. And then the next time that the elbows widen, release your hands and just open the arms up into a little fork shape. So you've got almost right angles at my elbows and my shoulders. And find your pec stretch here. So sometimes reaching up behind you, you might get into that pec stretch through the front of the chest, or bring the elbows down towards your waist, and that might be where you find it. So sliding the arms up and down. They don't have to be touching the floor, but you are in this little fork shape, sliding up and down, just in case you can't see it on the mat here. And hold that stretch wherever you get that nice strong pec stretch. Anything through the front of your chest, not in the shoulder joint. And then once you're ready to, your elbows come down towards your waist and circle the arms down by your sides. From there, hug the knees in towards you. You can really squeeze them in towards you so your breath has to go into your lower back. And then when you're ready, curl the head in towards your knees, curling into a little ball. And you can either rock yourself up from there, roll to your side, or you might just want to lay on the floor for a moment. Make sure that you breathe the whole way through and see how you go.